President, I hope you understand this issue is personal for me. This isn't abstract or theoretical. When I say I'm a Medicare for All advocate, I hope you understand it's because I've spent hours on hold with my insurance companies when they won't cover the cost of my care. It's because I've had to sue insurance companies when they tell me I need to pay thousands of dollars out of my own pocket for the cost of full-time care. And I have a great private insurance plan. I understand what you are saying about keeping private plans, but I guess my question is, what does preserving private insurance really do for people?
So what you just heard there is healthcare advocate Ady Barkan speaking to Joe Biden, really hammering Joe Biden on why private-based healthcare models have failed the American people, not only today during this crisis we're all facing, but even in the supposedly quote-unquote normal times. And what he's basically saying is, look, for millions of people, not just for him, but for lots of folks, the need for Medicare for all is not hypothetical or theoretical or academic. It's not a matter of debate in an academic setting. It's a matter of living their lives and getting the care they need without going into crushing generational debt. That's what it's about. It's about not having to choose between healthcare and all the other things you and your family need. That's what it's about, more than anything. And from Ady Barkan to Joe Biden, he's making it very clear that Joe's supposed support for healthcare being a basic human right without actually supporting Medicare for all isn't really going to get us there. And you can hear Biden in this clip. Biden will basically say, look, I support the idea of healthcare for everyone. It's not a privilege. It's a basic right. Fundamentally, I want everyone to get healthcare, but he's still wedded to this idea of quote-unquote choice, where if you supposedly like your private plan, you can keep it, and he doesn't want to take away choice from regular Americans. But the fact of the matter is that choice is an illusion. I've covered it on this channel lots of times, where fundamentally, choice only really exists for the insurance companies and the employers. And for workers, most of the time, they don't have a choice. What we're seeing now is literally dozens of millions of Americans who have lost their health care or will lose their health care because they've lost their jobs and or their spouse or parents have lost their jobs, no longer have health care. There was no choice for them. Joe Biden admitted it in his New York Times interview back during the primaries, where somebody said, hey, look, Joe, if you get laid off, if your employer decides to all of a sudden just slash your health care plan, where's your choice there? And Joe's like, well, I suppose you don't really have a choice if your employer chooses something different. And that's the crux of it. There is no choice. Ady Barkan notes that he had insurance. This was a man with insurance, but his bills wouldn't be covered or copays would be ridiculous. And fundamentally, what people deserve is absolute peace of mind that they will be covered and they will not have to pay a single penny, a single dime out of their pocket to get the care they need. And Joe Biden's vague statement that healthcare is a basic right sounds good. It's better than nothing. It's better than what Democrats on the mainstream were saying 10 years ago, I suppose. But fundamentally, it's not a human right until it's free, universal, equally for everyone at the cost of entry. Then it's a human right. And it's not a human right until it's Medicare for all. And Biden even plays his card here. He notes later on in this interview that fundamentally he understands the cost of healthcare. He says, when I was in the hospital, I had to pay $280,000. And then he goes on to say, additionally, that my son's medical bills were also very high. And he says that, I have insurance as well, so I get it. But the problem is, Joe, you're not going to fix the gosh darn problem. Joe's admitting that healthcare is a basic human right, and he's admitting that the current system doesn't work, and he's admitting that everyone deserves to get health insurance. And he's also saying, as a man of very elite status, very few people more elite than a former vice president who was in the Senate for more than a couple generations, few people more elite than him, saying that I still had hundreds of thousands and indeed potentially millions of dollars of costs through my family revolving around healthcare. What private model will make that work better for people? What model other than a single-payer, universal, Medicare for all model will actually fix that? And the answer is no model. The answer is no model but Medicare for all. That's the solution. So Joe Biden wants to have his cake and eat it too. He gave this interview to Ady Barkan because he wanted to throw a bone to Medicare for all advocates and to the quote-unquote progressive wing and left wing of the Democratic Party. Barkan wasn't a Sanders supporter. I believe he was a Warren supporter, but he is seen as somebody who is, on medical issues at least, pushing the boundaries in the right way. But this is all being couched in this discourse of, well, we have to fundamentally come together. But Joe Biden isn't coming together. Joe Biden sees what's happening over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years in America, but especially over the last few months, and he hasn't changed his mind. This is still the man that clings to private-based models that leave millions of workers out. And this is a man that sees people thrown out of their plans by the millions, and he's doing nothing. This is still the man that would veto Medicare for all if he had the opportunity to do so. Never forget that. And never forget that until Joe Biden, and I don't think he ever will, but until he says, I support Medicare for all, what he's really saying is I want tens of millions of Americans to continue to suffer and indeed lose their lives because of inadequate health care. He is not our ally in this fight.